Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Loki episode. Just gonna have a quick conversation. Episode 4 of Loki was freaking nuts and gave me feels. And yeah, I just had to talk about it. So I'm gonna bring up some awesome guests and do that right here on the high ground. All right. Hello, welcome. I am excited to talk because episode 4 gave me some feels. I couldn't even talk about it. It's in a Discord server and popped up in the chat, and I was like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just gonna go to bed. But yeah, real quick, let's have everyone introduce themselves. I'll go to Fern first. Fern.
Sorry, hang on. I've got like a weird echo going on, so I'm hearing like two things at once. So sorry.
Okay, no worries. I will start with Vaga then.
Hi, I'm Vagabondage, or Vagabondage Babe on TikTok, and I am super obsessed with Marvel on a healthy level. It's got to be healthy. To try and subsidize that, I like to mix in a sprinkling of science with my TikTok videos about Marvel so that we can always stay grounded in our theories. But really, it's all about having a good time and having some conversations and meeting sweet people on the internet like this.
Yes. Yeah, and so I first met you by watching you on Dimitri's show, on the Keeg show, which I think I'm going on tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think I'm part of the Keeg back with Shaylee, actually, so that should be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And then we also have Fern.
Hello, my audio is working now, which is great. Hi, I'm Fern. At Always Fern on TikTok. I make mostly Star Wars content, but just started getting into making content about Loki. I'm an English teacher, and that's the perspective I bring to my coverage of these two fandoms.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, episode 4. Let's kind of like I guess break it in half. We'll do the first half of the episode, second half, and then our overall thoughts, I guess. But man, all right, so first half, we're back on the planet and we have no idea how they're going to get off. There's been so much speculation on like, oh, this is all happening in Loki's head or whatever. I don't know what jumps out at you guys about the things that we got to see happen or start to happen between them. What could this Nexus event that they were starting be, and why was it so crazy like that? Yeah, we'll go to Fern first.
Yeah, so in my mind, the most interesting thing that happens in this first half of the episode is that we get to learn more about Sylvie, because she's so guarded in episode 3. She's very intentionally revealing only a little bit about herself. And I think mostly just in the face of like the potential for total annihilation, she begins to open up to Loki, and that's also the audience at that point. So we get to learn what her story is.
Hey Google, change the light color to white.
And how different it is from the Loki that we know and we've gotten to know over the course of the past like 13 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a lot more information on Sylvie for sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Vaggie?
Yeah, Sylvie's obviously the focus of this episode, and I think that's intentional because I believe going forward we're going to see more of Sylvie. I would be so disappointed in Disney if they just fridged her and we never saw her again. I think the audience knows that too. Disney is aware that if they bring in this beautiful character that we're just going to fall in love with and then take her away from us, we might riot. But knowing that, what I loved about the focus on her is that it also reminds the audience that she is a Loki variant. There's no question about that. But what it means to be a Loki, what it means to be who you are as a person, is 100% dependent on the life that you have lived. It has nothing to do with who you were born as necessarily, but the experiences that you have had. I don't know. Yes, you're born a certain way. You are born. She is born a Loki, and there are genetic properties that come with that. But how the
it's the nature
world
versus
treats
nurture.
you. Yeah. So there is balance, I suppose, and I think they're going to go a little more into that. Personally, the big pop out for me in Sylvie's relationship, or in Sylvie's character, was when they were in the elevator with Ravonna, and she brought it to the attention of the audience. What was my Nexus event? What caused all of this to happen? Why did I have to spend my life growing up in apocalypses? Ravonna doesn't know the answer, and I think eventually by the end of the series we'll find out.
Yeah, and also, I always I call on someone first, but it's very conversational. So jump in when you guys have ideas, and I'll shut up. So, yeah, what do you think the significance is of Loki essentially learning to love themselves?
It makes total sense to me, honestly. I have met Lokis in my life, and I'm not even so far as to say that I'm not equally as narcissistic. If I met another version of myself, we would probably run away together. It would be that kind of a relationship. So these people do exist. It makes sense, but as a bisexual nerd, after just seeing the reveal and the canonization of Loki's character being bisexual or pan or queer, I also liked the idea of just seeing that play out with Mobius or someone else. And so, there's always a little bit of heartbreak there when you set yourself up for something and then they take it away. But it totally makes sense, him and Sylvie. It just does.
Yeah.
I'm in the exact same position. I have very complicated feelings about I feel like I maybe got my hopes up for like a level of I'm just going to use the term representation. I don't really like it because I don't think it is adequate, but like I set myself up for representation that like it's become pretty clear that the show is not interested in exploring, which is what it is. But I want to get back to this idea of Loki learning to love themselves, because one of the things that's so interesting to me about this character is that he contains multitudes. There are so many conflicts and so many things that almost seem like opposites. I perceive Loki as a character who is narcissistic and is self-obsessed and also hates himself, like also genuinely can't stand himself. And those two things coexist. He loves himself and he hates himself. And we're getting to see that play out in like a very literal way with Sylvie, I think, which is interesting.
That's interesting because it makes sense, because like he can't, he views himself as above everyone else, but he can't be without someone else. He can't be alone. But his actions to put himself on top are always forcing him to be alone. That's interesting. Any significance of the prison? I mean, I did love seeing Jamie Alexander back again. I'm happy to see our Lady Sif is alive and well. But yeah, any significance around that whole memory cycle?
You know what I was? Oh, do you have something to say?
No, go ahead if you got it.
Yeah. So, what I was thinking when I saw that scene is very similar to what I was thinking in the first episode, where we watch Loki sort of have to watch these events from his life play out on a screen. And that's that we're working with the 2012 era Loki, who's very different from the Loki we see in Ragnarok. They kind of need to get him from point A to point B, and it seems like a really good way to do that is to just break him down with truths about himself, basically. Like Mobius says, you do know yourself. And that seemed to be what this was. He was faced with a really core belief he holds about himself over and over again until he just has to break down and face it, which is something it's difficult to imagine the Loki of the first Avengers movie doing, but makes a lot of sense for the Loki we know in 2021.
And it's great that you point that out, because yes, 2012 Loki, he had only learned about his own personal heritage like shortly before that. The first Thor movie was what, 2009 or something like that. So these are all internal conflicts that he's only been wrestling with for a short period of time. He's not always been this way. This is the direct aftermath of realizing you've been lied to for centuries. The person that you thought was your father is not your biological father. And there's always a quest of self-fulfillment. Who am I after that if everything I thought I was is not who I am anymore? And I want to say it's a tale as old as time when it comes to storytelling, when someone has their reality broken. And that's what Mobius is basically pointing out to the audience as well. It's like, it's crushing my reality right now. And so we're not putting it like 2 and 2 together, but that is the effect of it. Cause and effect, it's everywhere. And I'm excited to see more. But going back directly to the prison, I love that they're focusing on the concept of memory in this show, because they've done this already with Sylvie and how she's able to access the memories of these people in the past. And now there is a difference too in this little realm that they're going into. If you notice the gateway that they had to go into, it was red, versus all the time doors on the Sacred Timeline have been this bright golden color. So it's almost like they're tapping into a certain frequency of light or energy or whatever it is that they need to in order to access that. And I think we're going to see more of that in the last 2 episodes. Personally, there's a lot of technological metaphors that are building up here, and I'm just so ready for them to be exposed.
Do you think there's a relate? Because in episode 1, when they're giving Loki the tour of it, we talk like, we don't go over there. That's like the nightmare zone or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm curious now if there's another colored door that's imagination that leads there. You know, so we could have time, memory, and imagination. And I'm curious. I think there might be some interesting things to play with. I also want us to obviously touch on our good friend B15, Hunter B15, who, I mean, I got worried. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying what a breakthrough she had in this episode.
Yeah.
I got worried for her as soon as Ravonna was like, "Oh yeah, we got rid of the other one because she was having adverse side effects." And I was like, "No, but Hunter B15 also got brain blast." Like, I know they're lying, but is this gonna really like take down our? I'm happy that she's a bigger part. I didn't think she was going to be a big part just from watching the first episode, but watching her deal with this as well as Mobius too, uncovering it makes me think certain things. So just my take on it real quick is in episode 1 or episode 2, we get Mobius in Ravonna's office where he sets the cup down where there's rings on the table, and he puts it on a coaster, and he asks who else comes in here. Well, obviously it's only him. Well, not obviously, but how many times has this happened? He's probably they're close because he's her best detective, but being that he's the best detective, I'm sure he always figures out what the TVA is up to, and then has to be reset and brought back in, and then leave a cup on there again. How many times has this happened? Can we break the cycle? I don't know. What do you think, Vaga?
I have a couple different theories on Mobius, and I don't know which one they'll go with. The idea that there are several Mobius variants, I personally like the idea of, because just in the comics, I knew that there was Mr. Mobius, Mr. Tesseract, Mr. Ouroboros, and Mr. Paradox, and all of these are infinite loops in a sense. And so in my mind, I like the idea that they would bring in just more Mobiuses. But I think the rewriting of memory is just an easier thing for the writers to throw in there in a pinch. So who knows?
Interesting.
And I'm so sorry. I'm getting an important phone call, and I need to step away. I'll try to be back, but I don't know if I'll be able to. But thank you so much for having me on. I'd love to talk about Loki, and I wish I could stay longer.
Yeah. It was last minute. If you can't, I'll just dismiss you to the back. If you can pop in before we're finished, then please do. If not, totally cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. But Fern is the best. No, that's a great, like, because yeah, they could always just pull in another Mobius from another time period. They wouldn't need to necessarily reset him. Um,
What
so
are your thoughts? What are your
well,
thoughts on that? Are we going into the end credit yet, or are we're still? Tell me more about Mobius.
well, I mean that you just kind of blew my mind with that, because she did talk a lot about how their relationship was different and how it was special and all this stuff. So obviously there's a lot more going on than we know, but I could definitely see a situation where they are bringing in like new ones each time. I don't know how you would, and that would be enough variation between them all. But that would also imply that not everyone is truly a variant. That some of the people may just be regular people and they just need another version of them, and so they just bring in other completely innocent ones.
I guess it depends on how they decide to define what a regular person is. I mean, from my perspective, literally everybody is a variant unless they're not all. Like it's either like to be a normal person is a sum total of all the variations in my brain. And that's where most of my TikToks have been going with my whole holographic principle theory, is the idea that you need to have every spectrum working together, every frequency of a being combined in order to create one true whole. And that's the idea of prisms, basically, where you have different frequencies of light, and that becomes the white light. And that's kind of the imagery we've been presented so far with the timeline, is that all the multiverses were forced together and combined into one singular timeline. So are they going to continue with that? I mean, they've already cleaned up what everyone was expecting to become the multiverse. We had Sylvie go and bomb the timeline. All that mess was gone as of episode 4. If you looked at the screen again, there was the only branching timeline was the one that was created by Loki and Sylvie touching hands. Everything had been cleaned up. So that was meant to be a distraction for Sylvie to go and get access to the timekeepers. Meanwhile, the hunters and the analysts have all cleaned it up in the meantime. So where now? Where's this multiverse coming from?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you're viewing it as, like you said, a prism of a sum total of all of the variations versus a standard distribution curve where it's just like this one's in the middle, so that's the right one. But I also think that a variant could just be anyone that they deem is not prudent to what they want in this time, in this timeline, because they are the ones that are deciding everyone's fate.
So who's deciding, though?
That is a great question, because we saw, it's not those 3 lizard robot guys. Yeah. I did feel like that the fight scene was a little weird, but I
was wondering, I just kind of gave it like a leeway, thinking COVID, they had difficulty filming, they couldn't have been too close to each other or something. That's a lot of this show, I feel like, has been 2 people sitting far apart from each other, and I just feel like that's a COVID show that we can expect for a while.
Yeah, no, that's true. Also, I thought maybe it's just like obligatory action because we've had too much talking, and this is a Marvel thing.
Yeah.
We have people saying that since they are bringing in Gore the God Butcher, we might get Kronox and Time Gods and stuff like that. I don't think it's Kang. I know a lot of people think it's Kang. I don't think it's Kang. I think that although I think it could be a remnant of a timeline that Kang destroyed or had conquered in the past. So he could be involved. I don't think it's him.
I don't think he's involved yet. People keep wanting to bring up the fact that Ravonna and he are a thing in the comics. And I'm just saying that is in the comics that was one thing, but it's also the MCU. They can just take characters out of context and place them wherever they want to. Or Ravonna could eventually, like later down the line, get involved with Kang. We know he's going to be in Quantum Mania. Ravonna could show up 3 movies down the line and everyone would freak out at that point, be like, yeah, we love her. So this could be, her own little origin story in a sense, because do we know that she knew that the timekeepers were fake, or was she just ready and willing to die at the hands of Sylvie because her entire world just got shattered? Everything that she thought she knew she was fighting for is a lie, and she's like, yeah, just kill me, just do it.
And does she actually remember why she brought in Sylvie? Was that a lie?
I don't know. It could have been something that she's just been coded to do. I don't know if it was malicious. That face makes it seem like it was. She's like, I don't remember. But that's also just a trained response when you're in a power of authority. It's like, what do you want?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I don't know.
Okay. And then so the disintegrator sticks and the last scene.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta. Well, I have some people in here pointing out that the timekeeper fight did have a little homage to the Star Wars: The Last Jedi throne room scene, which I could definitely see them working together. There was no thigh grab, but
a little help over here. Oh, Loki, shut up! You can do it.
But I mean, so from episode 1, I just assumed that those sticks didn't actually destroy people. Mostly because I've seen that like a million times in everything superhero related. Superman the animated show, Avengers Assemble did it. It's like common that you think they're just being disintegrated, they're actually being teleported somewhere. But
thank you. That's a great way to put it. I've been saying that since the beginning with the teletransportation paradox question of what is the technology that's actually taking place here. Are we just transporting them somewhere else? Are we, if you guys remember the old movie The Prestige, basically where Hugh Jackman's character would have to create a duplicate. So good. Christopher Nolan. I got to rewatch it and make sure it's not problematic. But back then I remember loving it. That technology, that idea, were they just replacing someone on the timeline? And they make it seem like they've deleted it, but it might just be going somewhere else. So where is this little trash box island planet place that they're at?
Yeah. So the end scene, we got old man Loki, we got little crocodile Loki, kid Loki, Black Thor Loki. I don't know.
They called him Boastful Loki in the credits.
Boastful Loki?
Boastful Loki. I like him. I just don't know where he's from.
I don't know either, but considering how much Loki boasts in general, Boastful Loki, like being known for that, I don't even know where we're going with that. But what did you, any thoughts or speculations?
Well, right off the bat, I saw the disintegrated sort of Avengers Tower there, which obviously is where a lot of the Avengers Loki 2012 battle with the Chitauri took place. So is that a part of a timeline that was basically removed? Are all the Loki timelines getting deposited into the same file? And I'm just going to talk about this in my metaphorical sense that has been working in my brain. If we want to imagine that the entire setup of the TVA is working as a computer. I don't want to say it's a simulation, because a simulation implies that it's imaginary, that there is a reality elsewhere. This is where I've been using the term holographic principle, because it's basically the universe exists on a 3-dimensional plane, but it's also a projection of something that's taking place on a 2-dimensional plane. And that's what a real life holograph is, not the Tupac situation. That's an illusion. Anyway, I'm getting way too scientific in it, but I think what's going to happen is we're going to have this sort of amalgamation of computer metaphors coming together, because as the Sorcerer Supreme describes a spell, it's also a program.
Mm-hmm.
And programs, the way that they develop them, those spells, are those sort of sacred geometry circles that they use,
fractal designs, but are like hard light, which is
exactly. So that's all light energy, and basically what the timeline is just one giant light wave that they've focused together. And I want to see them basically zoom out on the universe and have a giant spell that we just hadn't seen before. And if that's the case, then this whole not simulation, this whole computer program that is life and existence would be it would, if it was a computer, there would be a trash bin, and that's where Loki could be theoretically. You know, it's like it's not that information ever gets permanently deleted; it just goes off somewhere and is supposed to dissipate over time. And at least that's how I think computers work. You're more tech savvy than I am.
That I like that. I like that. I mean, I've been pondering over like, and not because of how plausible it is, but because of how MCU I feel it would be if this is just the reality where 2012 Loki won and the Avengers died. And then no one was able to stop any of these other threats that occurred. And that reality kind of just spiraled out of control. And that is the reality that needed to end or needed to be destroyed. That is actually the previous universe. And this whole thing that is
like a
built
feedback loop.
Yeah, and this whole thing that's built around the TVA is they restarted the universe from just before that point in order to put into place whatever they needed to prevent that from happening and pruning anyone that could potentially stop it. And so anyone that is a danger to this timeline that they've created, they're plucking out of this universe and putting it in the old one. This is an old destroyed universe, whatever. We're going to toss them. That's kind of how I'm operating right now. But again, we'll have to wait and see. But there might be like an army of Lokis that are just on this like destroyed Earth that was being ruled by some Loki.
Yeah, and that's the question. Is it only the Lokis? Why were these Lokis there waiting for him? They knew he was about to arrive. And because of that fact that they were just standing there over his body as he entered into this place, it makes me think that it was all meant to happen, that it was planned specifically, that this Loki, this 2012 Loki, needed to teleport with the Tesseract, needed to go to the situation, that Sylvie needed to grow up in apocalypses to become the strong person that she is, so that our Loki could meet her and be inspired to be a better version of himself. And for all of that to take place, and then for him to go to this deletion land, like it feels like it's part of the plan, which a lot of people will hate that idea because it takes the idea of free will completely off the table. But I love it.
Yeah, I still nothing wrong with it. Element 7 brings up, considering Mobius strip is how Tony solved time travel, could Mobius be an omniscient conceptual being? I mean, obviously, back when he was on Earth, I doubt his name was Mobius. So, is there extra significance to Mobius being Mobius?
I mean, he was a character in the TVA and the comics, and I think that's basically where they took the name from. The name Mobius strip was presented to that geographical shape back in 1896, I think it was. The mathematician who discovered it was named August Mobius. And so the comic book nerds that made Mobius and Mobius obviously were taking from science and from math when they named Tesseract, Paradox, and Ouroboros. So I think it's just one of those same source information that inspires art kind of things that have popped up.
No, I can definitely see that and agree. Okay, I mean, any final thoughts? Any other places that we're gonna go? What was so bad that they had to take a little girl playing with toys out of her timeline and try her like that? Any thoughts?
Nothing bad. I think it was literally that they knew that they needed her to be a certain person in order to make 2012 Loki become the person he wants to be. And it's a surprise to everyone else because it's like middle management, right? Upper management has a plan. They have a goal in mind, and they just it's like compartmentalization. You don't need to tell the people below you what they don't need to know because they could interact with it and they could ruin the situation. So in order for Sylvie to become the person she needed to be to have this effect later on, Ravonna couldn't know what the plan was. She needed for Sylvie to escape. She needed to hunt her down this entire time. So that deterministic view, again, is going to be unpopular, but that's where I think we're going with it.
Yeah. I could see that. And like you said, I don't love playing with the idea of getting rid of free will, but it's still not actually getting rid of free will.
Yeah.
And if the end of this is the destruction of the TVA, then that prevents that from being a thing in the future. So it still all goes hand in hand. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, I just want to do these, short little things and talk about the episodes and kind of break down it. Again, your analyses are always beautiful. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You will let everyone know where we can find you and all of your awesome stuff.
Yeah, I'm on TikTok primarily. That's where all these theories come out. I'm on Instagram very rarely, but I post some cosplay over there more. As the pandemic has continued longer than expected, I haven't been doing as much cosplay, but I've got some full body latex, super nerdy, vintage characters coming out in the next couple months. So you'll see those as the costumes get completed. But definitely go to either Instagram or TikTok, Vega Bondage Babe, and you'll find my links through there. You can find all the other stuff that I do online with that. Definitely go to the TikTok though, because I just posted a special wild speculation theory yesterday involving the Beyonders entering the Loki series. So who knows?
Ooh. I mean, it'll need to happen because my favorite character from all of Marvel, Dr. Doom, there's some end game stuff with that. So we'll see.
For all we know, the TVA could be the Library of Worlds, and that could be anyway. You'll find out later.
All right. Well, I'll be checking out your theory right after after this. But all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. And I don't have an ending yet for these Marvel things, but I don't know. May the Loki be with you, I guess.
And also with you.
All right.
Thanks so much. Bye.